Welcome in. I'm glad you've reached me this evening. My name is Coach Hayes, and you have reached at Coach Hayes Hudl. So excited for you to be here this evening. A lot of things to break down. I got a special guest, Trey Tucker, with me tonight. We're going to be breaking down linebacker after linebacker after linebacker because we are loaded this year at the UGA. At all the UGA stops that we're doing through the personnel groupings that we have this week. Want you guys to stick around, and we're going to have a bone to pick towards the end with all the assistant coaches that got a chance to be with us this past few days to be able to discuss with the pressers and the people that were out there doing the interviews. I was really a lot of good things to say from Coach Hartley, Coach Shu, from Coach T. Rob, and especially from Coach Bobo. But I've definitely got a bone to pick with them, so I want you to stick around because we got a loaded show for you tonight. Stay tuned. Hold on. Wait a second. Rewind that. I know this topic's not talked about enough, but you see it in the first day of practice of the players playing with the concussion covers on their helmet. And what you'll notice throughout the video, and the reason why I rewound it was to show you there is one guy in particular. I'm sure he's not the only one on the field, only the one caught on camera. But you see a receiver coming across the middle who has a blue concussion cover on his helmet. And Coach Smart had talked about the fire, the passion, and the energy, but we associate fire always being like the campfire orange and yellow. But believe it or not, in the hottest part of the flame is actually a blue flame. And they do this because they want to say that this guy is the hottest guy on the field, the one who is going to show all of those attributes that we want to see from a player. And that is actually giving them incentive to show that they are the leaders on the field, putting out in all facets of the game and practice. And they're being recognized by the coaching staff. This is not something that just a position player coach gives probably. I'm sure it has to be. Everybody sees it and voted on by their peers and the coaching staff alike. So I want you to watch it again and tell me, who do you think it is that's got that blue cover on his helmet? Watch out. I know who it is. As you saw, something that I wanted to preface the show with today is to talk to you about incentivizing kids when you think that you have a group of Division I leaders in football, and you think all these kids just show up ready to show out, and they're all vocal leaders, and they all have just great abilities, and it's hard to coach them because they're so good. These kids are human beings that need direction. They need some attention in their life because a lot of times they've been coddled or entitled by different coaching staffs because they have been so good and been men among boys. What I love about Coach Smart and his staff and what he has done is he has basically taken something that these kids love, like a toy in a toy store, and incentivized the ability to use his PFE, the passion, fire, and energy that he talks about, that we have been mentioning, that you've been hearing in the pressers, that you've been hearing from Coach Hartley yesterday talking about it, from Coach Smart through the SEC media days. There's a lot of things that go into it. Me being a science teacher and obviously having a science background in chemistry and physics, believe it or not, I understand that the hottest part of the flame is actually not the oranges and the yellows that you see at the campfires, like I spoke in that pre-recorded show there. But what I wanted you to understand is that the hottest part of the flame is actually the blue flame. And that's what they've done this year. As most of you are probably aware, when you see those kind of awkward looking covers on their helmets, those are concussion caps or skull caps, what they might call them as well now. I don't know the actual terminology to it, but it's something that gives the impression of just helping them with all the the impacts they take day in and day out, especially the high impacts they're taking out of Georgia practice. It just saves on concussion protocol and obviously protects their head a little bit more. So even though it looks a little awkward, the one thing that's unique is that we have the red and the silver breeches and the black. But yet we've got these guys that have got blue concussion hats on top of their head, and very unique design because it incentivizes something special. And what Coach Smart and staff have basically implemented is that they want their guys to have. You can sit there all day long and talk about fire, passion, and energy, but realistically, having the totality of being the best player on the field that's most vocal, that is going to show by their actions and doing, and then also carry it every day, leading by example. And believe it or not, there's a lot of kids who are quiet. They'll go out there. Coach Hartley said it best. He said some of the hardest things he's had to do with some of these young bucks, as good as they are, is get them to come out and be vocal, to be present in what's going on, and to learn and adapt to what's going on at the level and skill and the pace at what they're doing in practice every day. As a coach, that was one thing I always wanted to incentivize, because typically what's hard in high school is special teams. But I took pride in special teams. I actually had a black Under Armour sleeveless shirt that my special teams team got, that only my special teams got. And then there was a specific group in that punt and kickoff routine. I had, and KOR and punt return, I had a black single shirt that had a hound on it. Very prestigious looking hound, almost like a Doberman pincher look was on the actual scheme, but they were called the Hounds. And basically that's what they went to do. They went out to hunt. And, to have the opportunity to see those things kind of come to fruition and see those guys wearing those shirts and taking pride and being a part of special teams, I was very impressed, because every day they came out there and took pride in being a part of that. And I was really appreciative when they would come out there full tilt at 100%, getting after it. And, like I said, it was an incentivized thing that we did in practice. And it was just because you had a shirt on, you got the chance to call those kids out at the end of practice and say, listen, here are my hounds today. And I'd call them out. And then on Friday night game nights, they would have that stitched shirt that they got to wear underneath their jersey. And man, they just thought that was the greatest thing. These blue caps are in the same situation, doing the same exact thing. So when you see these blue hats on, first off, I was just going to give you a little incentive there. Those of you who wasn't sure who I was talking about, that receiver coming across with the blue hat on is Colby Young. Obviously, he is poised for a great season this year. I'm looking forward to seeing him actually carry out what we anticipated from him when he came from Miami. I know he was stunted by just issues that happened off the field that became a distraction, but obviously he's come back strong from all the different things that went on with him. And I'm ready to watch him play a full season of football. And everybody is excited because of the potential that he can give us there. The next person that we're looking at, a lot of people don't understand that in the offensive line scenario, we have 4 guys, honestly, that are coming back next year that have decently 350 plus snaps from the previous 2 years. Drew Bobo played and started in 3 different varsity games last year, including Auburn and including Mississippi State. Jared Wilson was hurt. He got a lot of chances to go out there and do his job. And, along with Micah Morris, who I really had high hopes on, that had a kind of a sophomore slump. Honestly, Green, Freeling, and Micah all had sort of that sophomore slump mentality, where it just seemed like we just didn't get the potential out of them because of where they were at in the season. And sometimes, believe it or not, that can happen. I know a lot of people on the outside looking in say, what do you mean by sophomore slump? I've had that before, where you have a freshman comes in that's highly athletic, that you play a lot and you see potential in him. And in that second year, all of a sudden, the change in their drive changes, their motivations change. And sometimes you might even see a slump in that sophomore year. But I think the growth and the potential of knowing they're being counted on now as starters, realistically, the only one that's green up there, if you want to call it, pardon the pun, because we do have a green, it's going to be at right tackle with Monroe Freeling opposite of him at left tackle and Drew at center. Micah's probably going to anchor in that left guard spot. We got Daniel Calhoun, who's the only guy that has not had any starting time to be at right tackle, and we have yet to see him prove himself because he was hurt during spring. We didn't get a chance to see him in the spring game, which I was really disappointed in because I wanted to see those reps. And 225 girl, welcome in, go Dogs, no doubt. We didn't get a chance to see him in those reps. So that's the one that needs to be proven. It's also Coach Searles' first group that he recruited when he came in, his 6. At this point in time, there's one of them that's no longer with the team, but the Marquez Easley kid from Illinois. But, now Daniel Calhoun's getting the start, and a lot of his other guys that he recruited are now in the 2s and some in the 3 slots. And, uniquely, I like what I see from that 5 group. I really think we're easily 6 to 7 deep because the kids behind him, I know a lot of people want to talk about Juan Gaston's improvement, which he seems to be a man among boys right now. Hearing some decent vibes about him, little whispers back behind there. But I do think that we're going to see another couple of linemen that, just like when Micah Morris came on the scene the year before last in the 2023 season. And I just fell in love with his play because of the way he was the prototypical guard. I loved how he pulled. I loved his meanness. I loved his intent. But, like I said, it's one of those things I really do think when I watch him play, it just gave me those vibes of what I want to see from a guard pulling and taking on those kick out blocks and things of that nature. And wanted to be able to, kind of share with you. I think there's going to be some other ones this year that fit that same mold that we're not even talking about right now. Juan Gaston could be one of those guys. Michael Uni is probably going to be another one of those guys we're looking at. I'm also curious to know who's going to be the backup center. As a coach, I'm always really curious who the twos are. And, that's something that's really important to me because what I was watching in the G-Day game, believe it or not, was who was going to be Daniel Calhoun's replacement at right guard. Who was the two that was replacing the one? Because typically that's going to be the first guy that's going in as a utility guy as the sixth man. So that's very important for me to see. So when you look at Merriweather and you got Bo Hewley that are also a year ahead of those guys in Coach Searles' first recruiting class that can also go in because they've grown, they've matured. I really do think you're going to be seeing those kind of guys and those names that are going to be popping up. I'm really curious to see, is Malachi Tolliver going to overtake Cortez Smith, who was recruited as a pure center out of Parkview High School? So there's a lot of things that go on with that. When it's being said, I've got a good friend here, Blake Canby. God love it, man. I appreciate you checking in with me through Facebook. Love hearing you too, my friend. It's good to see my old kids that I got the chance to coach and influence and teach be a part of the show and come in, and I do thank you for that. Blake, it's good that you checked in with me through Facebook. Right now, I am live through Facebook, YouTube, and on X at this point in time, and I've got the opportunity to share with you a lot of things that are going on. Mike, I wanted to answer your question. What's the difference in the colors? I've seen red, blue, and green. Typically, I haven't seen the green colors. You may think from a jersey standpoint, I think they just have the red hats and the blue concussions hats. I don't think green has anything to do with it. I know that typically it used to be where green was the color for your quarterbacks, especially with your jerseys. But right now, what I see and know, I only see red and blue, where red is just your typical hat, meaning, hey, we got guys out there that are competing, trying to fight for that number one, number two spot. But we've got those blue hats, those guys that are going above the call of duty, that are being the best that can be on the field and, doing their job. So, I was wanting to talk about the line a little bit with Drew Bobo. That was another one that I'm excited about. The next one in line here, believe it or not, guys, this is Elo Madozi, the kid we got from Army. I believe that just watching him come out there and coming from Army, you would think that he has excellent uber leadership skills, very unique in what he does. I love the fact that he has the opportunity to come help us this year at the edge as the stand-up guy, the jack, the outside linebacker that stays on the field when we're in nickel coverage, which means the other outside linebacker is off the field. But Elo Madozi is just one that to me, he's just got it etched in his body that he is ready to go and play for the Georgia Bulldogs. I think he's going to be a fantastic fit for us this year. We're going to have hard times keeping him off the field, and he adds a decent amount of depth that we want to have from that edge position, from that jack position, that not only can take on pulling guards on the run and be able to fit and bend and get low and get on the hoop to the quarterback on pass rush, but also someone who arrives with bad intentions. Watching him on film from Army, I know that there was a guy that was a good friend of mine, a coach that goes way back. He's with the University of Cincinnati now as one of the linebacker coaches there, Courtney Braswell. Courtney Braswell, I know, had to have the influence in Elo Madozi's life because he worked with with Army as part of their program. And I tell you what, if they had any kind of coaching from Courtney Braswell, he's a special guy. I'm talking about just an elite coach. And I give a shout out to Courtney. I hope somebody who knows Courtney might give him a chance to let him know that I mentioned him tonight, because I love him dearly. I think the best of him. He's an excellent coach. And I know he had some influence to this young man's career. The next one here, and I think this is a guy that's sort of underlying. You have someone that is, I think, not being talked about enough because he's kind of being overshadowed with the Noah Thomas news, and he's overshadowed because we want to see Kobe Young doing some good things as well. And then on top of that, we look at Zachariah Branch coming in and being that slot, but I think London Humphreys is going to be someone that helps us tremendously this year. He adds depth to the room. He's been there now 2 years. I think he gives us the opportunity to show what he's capable of. This being his second year, he obviously had the catch and the run into the end zone in the Clemson game, but you don't realize he had a lot of influence to us in the Georgia Tech win as well, where we went in 8 overtimes and froze our butts off. I was one of those hundreds of thousands up there screaming and hollering at Georgia Tech and hoping that we could pull it out there, which we did. But, London Humphreys had a lot to do with that. And he's another kid that's a part of this cog in the system that I think is going to influence what we do in the receiving core this year. I'm actually going to be doing a breakdown on the receiver core next week. I'm going to have Jeremy Johnson from On 3 joining me for that, and he's going to be coming in and talking, and we're going to get into all of that stuff that we want to see in the wide receiver room this year, because it's going to be a completely different dynamic than what we have seen even this past year. Okay, so that's London Humphreys there. The next one that we have, lastly, obviously, is going to be someone. That's the reason why I waited to show him last, and that's C.J. Allen. C.J. Allen he is the heartbeat of this team. He's not only need to be the leader at the linebacker position on defense, I think he honestly needs to be one of 3 leaders that's the captain of this football team. He is someone that absolutely needs to be on the football field at all times and in people's ears at all times, even when he's not on the field. He's an absolutely marvelous influence, and I'm going to give you some comparisons, because I know a lot of times there are people who are always looking to comp, and someone wants to comp him towards Roquan Smith, and I really don't want to do that. I want to let C.J. Allen be C.J. Allen. And I've got some comparables I'm going to show you before I do his breakdown a little bit later to give you an understanding of how that works. I've got so many people in the chat tonight. I appreciate you guys showing up and showing out for me. Like I said, the part of this that helps me out is that when you get into the chat and you start talking, there are opportunities that present themselves. First off, let me give you an example. I have partnered with Georgia Sports Autographs. I'm going to go ahead and bring them up here. Georgia Sports Autographs was part of Roger Sutton and Sam Mathis are 2 guys that I got a chance to meet about a month ago, and they gave me an opportunity to step into their world. You got the opportunity right now, as most of you probably see behind me when you get back on the screen here, the opportunity for some signed merch. This is authentically signed merch where you have handlers that come in and take care of all that. Everything you're getting is actually signed by the player, and I'm giving away that free merch on my show. Tonight, if you actually go into and donate through and provide a super chat of the $5, I will put you as an entry 3 times into the drawing that I'm going to be doing on August the 29th, the day before we play Marshall at home for our season opener. And also, too, if you notice up in the top left-hand corner, I have a QR code for you to scan. You can actually scan and go to my new developed website. It became official this Monday. Very excited about all of that, to be able to bring all of my material to you in one place and centralize it for you. But you have the chance to go in there as well and subscribe with your email. And that also gives you 1 free entry in there as well. On that Friday, August 29th, I will be drawing 3 times for 3 different pieces of merch. But I can't thank you enough, Roger and Sam, for them inviting me in to get the opportunity to meet these young men and actually get a chance to talk shop with them a little bit. It wasn't just, all business, watching teenagers be teenagers and talk to one another and banter with one another, but also doing things for a good cause, welcoming the public in for a public signing session, and then signing a lot of memorabilia that just makes people's walls shadow boxes and makes their those rooms that they love to have with all their Georgia memorabilia. So if you're interested, you can scan the QR code there for Georgia Sports Autographs with Roger Sutton and Sam Mathis leading the way there. I can't wait to be at my next event with them, and I thank them for their partnership as we move forward. But as we go to the back where I was talking about, I wanted to kind of segue this into the part to intro about the linebacker room. I think it's very important that you have an understanding a little bit about the X's and O's of the game. A lot of this I'm going to kind of brief over, but there are 3 specific breakdowns that I want to talk to you about. I want to be able to give you the opportunity to see from a coach's perspective, like when you're watching clips and you're getting a chance to see what's going on, we have a tendency to just kind of see it in just sort of the box, and we say, oh, well, that looked like a good play. But yet from a coach's perspective, I can actually critique it and say, you know what, it could be better. And I want to be able to do that for you as we move into this section. I had the opportunity to bring in a good friend of mine, Trey Tucker. We just talked for about, 15, 20 minutes, and I had the opportunity to kind of interview him and just get some insight. Trey and I go back because Trey and I started podcasting roughly at about the same time. We helped each other out as we moved forward. He had me on the show a couple of times. I thought I'd reciprocate and have him back with me. And I pre-recorded this just yesterday, and I wanted just to have the opportunity to just talk about some insight towards the linebacker room. And once that is over, we are going to go straight into our breakdown, comparing each member of the linebacker room and what they bring to the table this year, and then show you individually those breakdowns. Before I go in there, I wanted just to give some shout outs here to some people who are talking. So first off, William Hawthorne, go Dogs, definitely go Dogs. Hey, how you doing? That's Miss Jones. If you don't know who this is right here, this is Chris Jones's mama. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I hope that I'm not telling the lie there on live air, but she's been a follower for me for a while. And definitely I'm a fan of hers because I love her kid. I love what he does. I think he's a part of a great program. I know you're excited and proud for your child being a part of that program. And it's really cool to see the opportunity to see Chris grow up this year. You know, he came in with, Justin Williams and with Chris Cole, and I know he's being moved around right now. He could be more up on the line of scrimmage linebacker, at outside linebacker, but he still could be moved back at the inside linebacker. He's going to be one of those versatile guys that I think, honestly, just listening to him and knowing where he comes from, I think that he's willing to do whatever he needs to do to help the team win. And that's an exciting feeling when you've got guys that are like that. So yes, I did get that correct. I'm glad. I'm so glad that I, thought about that. And I was like, wait a minute, I want to make sure first, but it's good stuff. I wanted to bring Eric in here real quick. He says, wait, so a subscription here and on your site is 2 entries. Hey, believe it or not, brother, if you do a super chat on my stream at YouTube, thank you so much, Mike. I appreciate that. That gets you 3 entries in to the drawing on the 29th. So yes, Eric, you put your super chat in tonight on YouTube. It gives you the opportunity for 3 entries. And then if you subscribe through my channel, you get 1 more entry. So you have 4 chances in the drawing to win. So you would be put into the algorithm 4 times instead of someone who may just go in once with 1. So it gives you a better chance for the opportunity to draw. And I'll be drawing 3 things. As you can see behind me here on my chairs, I have different paraphernalia, mini helmets, and signed jerseys. You can see a Kamari Lassiter and a Tyke Smith jersey on my chairs back there. There's going to be 3 things that I'm going to be giving away. So there'll be 3 drawings, and the more chances you have, obviously, the better you have a chance of winning. So that's what I'm planning on doing. And I can't thank you enough there, Mike, for your donation there in the chat, the super chat there. Just can't thank you enough for that. Again, the rest of you who are in the chat, I appreciate all your comments. I'm going to try to pay attention to those as I go, but I want to go ahead and segue into this section with Trey. I want you to put a listen to this, and then I'm going to come back on the back end and we're going to start breaking down those linebackers. So stay tuned. In my next segment, I am joined by Trey Tucker with the Doghouse Podcast. He is out of the North Carolina area. I believe you said the Charlotte area. Trey and I have gotten to know each other over the last 2 years since I started at Coach Hayes Hudl. Trey was on the Warpath as well out there doing his podcast, and we linked up that way. And he's had me on his show a couple of times, and I've really enjoyed being on there. He has a lot of great guests on there. There's the guy from Missouri is the one that I want to talk to him about, because I think he's a great guest that you had on there as well. Skeeter, that was his name, believe it or not. But man, great knowledge, has great understanding of the SEC, not only with Missouri football, but also had a lot of good things to say about the Dogs. But Trey, I appreciate you being on with me tonight as we talk a little linebacker action. And welcome to the show. How you doing this evening?
Hey, appreciate you having me on, Coach Hayes. You've been always great guests coming on Doghouse Podcast, and actually one of them was probably one of the highest viewed. I think we had close to 4,000 views and added a bunch of subscribers. So it's always a pleasure to collaborate with you.
Hey, no problem, Trey. Like I said, I just appreciate your time and efforts to be on with me tonight as we begin to talk about fall football, because when we get to fall football, it gets really a feeling of just realness. Even though maybe fall weather is not in the air, we may be dealing with a little false fall action right now. I think that we are beginning to feel the vibes of what it's like to see our Bulldogs in the red and black getting after it out there August 30th against Marshall. And before we get diving into the linebacker action, I just wanted to go ahead and talk to you about, like, if my viewers or subscribers, the people who are out there watching the show tonight, if they want to catch you somewhere, I just want to know where they can find you at. What's your social media handles and all the things they can find you?
Yeah, appreciate that. So, yeah, we're on YouTube at Doghouse Podcast. Make sure and look for the red Doghouse logo. There's some other Doghouse podcasts that are totally different industries. But, yeah, we're at 620 subscribers and growing. What we usually try to focus on, or at least I do, I've been doing it probably 8-9 years, but got real particular about it last 3 years and all in, is we try to have at least during the season a person from each team, for example, Marshall or Auburn or Alabama, in the YouTube world, and we kind of come on and collaborate. So it's good to hear from enemy lines over there. So we try to have that as well. We're on Twitter at Doghouse Talk, and we're at the Doghouse Podcast on Instagram as well. So yeah, it'd be great if you can come over and like, subscribe, and comment, and come join the community.
That's great. I think, honestly, to tell you the truth, it has been so awesome since I started the brand of Coach Hayes Hudl to meet and network with all the different people that I would have never have known if I hadn't had the chance to just be in this world, this genre that we're in now, which is just, in a sense, this community of podcasters talking about passionate things that we love, which is Georgia football. And like I said, it gave me a chance to meet you as well through this process. And I definitely appreciate our friendship and time on here. So let's get to what we were wanting to talk about, Trey. Obviously, as we look into the fall season and we look at the position groups, personnel-wise, I broke down running backs last week. This week, we're looking at the linebacker core, which honestly, you could probably say that they are the most experienced group, probably the most stacked group, maybe other than the tight end group that Coach Hartley, that beast of a machine he's got over there with the tight ends. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the linebacker core, because what we do have at the inside linebacker core are two solid veterans who have had basically a growing pain season, a sophomore season, and now they're going into junior years where you would say that this could be their bag year, or you could be at least saying that they're going to be setting up a tone for this year to be something special at that inside linebacker position. But wait, there's people behind them. You think about Chris Cole, you think about Justin Williams, you think about a five-star linebacker and what they got with Zayden Walker. You think about an AJ Kruah who committed and flipped from, where was he at? North Carolina, and then flipped over to Georgia at the last second. You've also got people like Terrell Foster, who's waited his turn and not gone anywhere either, that provides depth there too. But that's what's unique in having a lot of talent that has a very high ceiling that we've seen just bits and pieces of from the backup guys. We know what CJ and Raylen can do. What I wanted to ask you was, if we have a successful year this year, do you feel like it's going to fall completely on CJ and Raylen to be sort of the anchors at that inside linebacker position? Or do you feel like there's going to be some other guys that are going to be competing for that spot with rotations, as they like to do, to be able to show more success this year, because we see more faces out there having fun, getting after it, showing that athletic ability, and there's no drop off when those twos go out there to play, or if you want to call them twos, to go out there and play. So I'm just interested to hear your take on what linebacker like combinations you would like to see, where we're really having those great conversations on Monday morning at the water cooler about.
Yeah, definitely. The alphas are definitely going to be CJ Allen and Raylen Wilson, but I think the dark horse, as we were talking about earlier, and I've been hearing he's the freaky freak, is going to be Chris Cole. I think this is his breakout year. Side to side, he's long, he tackles well, and I think they're gonna rotate, because I always think Kirby likes to shift guys in and out, because he likes to he knows this is going to be a long season, and he's not going to play tons of snaps. So I think in Justin Williams, he's going to come in and have a great year. And I know they're going to have the comparison with CJ Allen and Roquan Smith. You can't throw. I'm sorry, Roquan Smith. You're not going to throw that name around. One question for you real quick. I wanted to see, out of these kind of up-and-comers, which one of them maybe was similar to Nakobe Dean, because he was great when he was at Georgia. So I wanted to kind of ask that.
He was. Nakobe was very unique in his style, because Nakobe wasn't necessarily a taller kid. I think he fit more the frame of what like Raylen and CJ are as far as size. He was undersized, but what I say undersized, when you're a linebacker at inside off the ball, being 6 foot tall, 6'1", there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. It actually allows you to get to the football a little bit better and get up underneath those big offensive linemen. But Nakobe, just because of his leadership skills, the one thing I know this year that I've said more than once, that CJ Allen has got to be not only the leader of this defense, he needs to be really the head moniker the leader of this football team, along with, your quarterback on the other side and gunner, and those people that want to step up on the offensive line. He needs to be that vocal spokesperson, that spearhead that takes control. And to me, that's what Nakobe did. You go back to the national championship in 2021, and you watch how he crawls Channing Tindall's ass after he makes a bad play on the man-to-man, gets in his way and almost cost him the touchdown right there. But that's what leadership is. And, it's unique to say in today's time. Coach Hartley said it today. I know T-Rob said it today in the staff meetings that they had with the pressers that came in. It was awesome to get to hear Hartley and Coach T-Rob and Coach Bobo and Coach Schumann be able to talk and actually give you some insight on things. Believe it or not, in today's time, you would think that everybody that comes to the University of Georgia as a D1 athlete are just these profound leaders. And believe it or not, they're having as much trouble finding that vocal leadership from people in today's world because a lot of kids are just quiet. And they have to create that out of them. He was mentioning, I know T-Rob mentioned KJ Bolding being that person that's kind of being forced into that scenario because he had Dan Jackson and Malachi Starks that are now vacated to the NFL. So if to answer your question, I would say there's no doubt, without a doubt, that CJ Allen is probably the vocal leader, what you're probably going to see out of what Nakobe Dean did as well. But I'm going to tell you someone else, and I like Chris Cole, obviously, but this is going to be the year we're finally going to get Justin Williams on some tape. I think Justin Williams is finally going to get some rotations in this year, very similar to what we saw when Raylen was getting into the ball game back when Nakobe and Quay were playing, where we got to see those guys get some playing time because we're rotating kids in, especially, let's say offensively, we're doing pretty well. We're up a couple of touchdowns, and all of a sudden it feels like that good rotational time where Chris Cole and Justin Williams can go in. And, we're rotating 2 inside linebackers in to get reps for 1 series or maybe even 2 series. Who knows? So I think that's a big deal with Justin Williams as well. But, when you look at it, there's another guy here on the list, Terrell Foster. Terrell Foster is a guy who's waited his turn. He's been patient. He didn't go to the portal. And honestly, I don't know what we'll see. I got to see him in the G-Day game a little bit, got the chance to play a little bit at that inside linebacker. I don't know how much he's going to help necessarily, but he still provides that added depth that you want to have at practice because he's a leader out there probably working in leadership roles because he has veteranship, but also, too, someone that's waited his turn, understands the qualities that they have in the standard, and wants them to do well out there. So just adds depth and helps. But I love the fact that you're thinking Chris Cole's going to help because he is. There's no doubt based off what he did last year in certain downs and situations, being a third down specialist, going out on passing situations. I'm actually going to do a breakdown on him later. But, I think Justin Williams finally has a little bit of a breakout year as well because of the fact he's going to get plenty of rotation. He's going to have the opportunity to get some more reps on film. And then when we see him out there, just like any other kid that gets to go out there and play, maximize his potential when he's on the field. So, that's my feeling on your question about Nakobe and who's going to kind of fit that leadership role there. And I'm also very interested in what you had to say there with Chris Cole, because I think a lot of people are excited about him. Any additional things maybe that just kind of stand out to you about the linebacker room?
Yeah, just how deep it is. And you just got a bunch of alpha dogs. And I think, last year they struggled. Well, the whole defense struggled at stopping the run. And I know that's going to be a big emphasis on summer camp. So you're going to see these guys that are athletic, can go from, side to side and tackle well. And I think if they can get some help from the D-line with Christian Miller, if he's healthy, I'm going to probably butcher his name, Dozie, which you've been hearing great things. And then if Elijah Griffith is as advertised, I think all that is going to help because, if you stop it up there and clog it up, linebackers can go and, as Jordan Davis said, two on me, somebody's free. Clog up the hole, man, and they can let them do their thing. So I think that's going to be big if the defensive line can get a push and have it.
You're exactly right. And honestly, I don't think the defensive line got enough credit. I think that sometimes gets pushed to the kind of down when you're trying to talk about great linebacker play. Nakobe and Quay Walker and Channing Tindall don't have the year they have if they don't have that front up there doing their job. And that was elite talent we had up there. I mean, all those guys are in the NFL now. When you look across the board from, what Jordan Davis did, of course, Jalen Carter, but you look at Devontae White, another guy that's, having solid NFL time with the Green Bay Packers. Nolan Smith, obviously, at the end. I mean, doing their job. Trayvon Walker prior to that. So, I mean, you keep naming off these names, and all these guys are level 1 day one NFL draftees. And, there's a reason why that linebacker play had something to do. So I agree with you. Mentioning the defensive line is key because it's the same principle on the offensive side of the ball. If you're running the ball well, typically that helps the passing game out. And I think that helps, with Gunnar Stockton's confidence and his ability to throw the football this year. We've got to have a ground game that complements it. It's the same thing. Our linebacker play is going to play very well if our defensive line holds up. You've got Xavier McLeod. You've got the Josh Horton kid that came from Miami. You've got Joseph Jonah. You got Elam Madozi out there on the edge. There's a lot of different people. Kristen Miller is obviously the staple that we want to see play at that 5-tech when he's on that side with the jack. We've got Nanande Oboko, which is a name that's beginning to hear a little bit more and more about at the 0-tech, which is the guy that lines up over the center. There's a lot of different names we could throw out, but I think the biggest thing is the butterflies in the stomach. That's what's causing us to have our issues, is because there's a lot of unproven talent. We don't know what they can do because we haven't got tape on them yet. And I think that's what's beautiful about being a college fan and going out and seeing college football for the first time August 30th. And then, of course, when they play Austin Peay the next week, is we are going to finally see these youngins that we've been talking about, these blue chip kids, which, by the way, we had the highest blue chip ratio we've ever had in the kids that are on the team this year, even higher than those guys 2021 and the 2022 class. It's just unproven talent. So that's the reason why I think a lot of people are just sort of mystified, because we're just not sure, but we know what their ceiling is. So I'm really excited to see what they do this year. I appreciate your insight on that as well. Now, as I alluded to earlier, Coach Schumann was talking in his presser, and the first thing that was basically asked of him, there was little, I don't think there was the transparency was profound, is that we got to be a better tackling football team. We were piss poor last year in tackling the football. He said we can't go out there and have a game like we did against Texas and then turn around and let someone score 28 points a game on us. It just can't happen. He said, for us to be elite, as we have mentioned that word now, and it's kind of gotten put into just sort of the context of what we're trying to do as part of our standard, we can't be elite if we're inconsistent. And so what I was wanting to ask you about this year, as a fan of watching Georgia football, when you watched them last year, what is something that you want to see differently this year that's going to give you a better feeling about our defense going out there and doing what they have done in the past that's made us that championship caliber team of, that consistency that Coach Schumann has talked about? As a fan, Trey, what do you think about that? What was something that would make you have a better, like I said, that nice warm fuzzy feeling about what our defense is doing next year to uphold that consistency that he talks about?
Yeah, definitely. Number one, the way the emphasis is stop the run. Because I remember one of the most annoying games was I was in Italy at the time, but we watched UMass run up and down the field. And I know it ended up being a blowout, but that wasn't good. I think they have close to 200 yards. Yes. And that wasn't a Kirby Smart defense. So stopping the run, you take that away, it's handicaps like a one-legged ass kicking contest, as they say. So if you stop that, that'll be really big. And Havoc, I think they didn't get enough pressure because probably don't have the talent as they used to. So get pressure on the quarterback more and stop the run. And then also it'd be good to have some more interceptions in the secondary. Yes. I think we were close on a lot. So if those, I know that's a lot, but stop the run would be ideal, because I always go back to this. When you look at X's and O's and you look at any stats, you outrush the other team, stop the run if you can, and win the turnover battle. You're going to be in really good shape. Not saying you'll win, but 9 times out of 10. So stop the run, and can we run the ball and do better than 102 in the nation, which was piss poor when we talked. So that's the whole other thing with the offense, but stop the run and be big.
Man, 125 yards per game rushing. We were second to last in the SEC in rushing last year, only to be ahead of LSU of all teams, it seems. And it's really unique to see us being in those categories, both defensively last year as well as what we saw offensively too. I think the one thing that we have to understand from a linebacker perspective as we close in here, and I appreciate your time with me. What I wanted to ask you, the two questions about Coach Schumann and understanding that consistency that we want to understand and see from their defense this year to give us a better feeling overall, because I think that's the one thing that really bugged me about the whole team last year was that inconsistent measure. It seemed like one game we'd go out there and we'd feel really good when that game was over with. You know, the Auburn game that I went to last year, there was never really any doubt that Auburn was going to beat us, but it was just sort of a humdrum type of game. When you have a Massachusetts game like the UMass game we have, that's the time when you should be beating a team 60 to, 7 or 14, where you do get more of your 2s and 3s out there to get more film work on them. Even though they eventually did that, I saw there was a lot of opportunities last year that were missed where we should have taken a team and really manhandled them the way we should have, but we allowed them to stay in, and it allowed us to have to keep our 1s in longer. We never got a chance to see the 2s or the 3s participate. And I agree with you. Those inconsistencies come from the fact we've got to be able to stop the run. We've got to put them in passing down situations where we know where we can pin our ears back and get after the quarterback. But when there's inconsistencies, when you're rushing the football very well, it really makes it hard on the defense and typically puts you in binds that you don't like as a defensive coordinator. I think Coach Schumann really needs to be under the microscope as well. If Coach Bobo is going to take the flack that he takes on offense because of drop passes and, opportunities for explosive plays that, don't actually come to fruition because the kids don't execute, well, why don't we hold Coach Schumann? Everybody's saying Coach Schumann's the next big thing to be another head coach somewhere. I know that he's looking himself in the mirror if he is like me as a DC. We got to be better because I guarantee he was embarrassed as hell. No matter beating UMass like they did, I would have been embarrassed as hell the way they ran the football on them that day, like you mentioned. I'm glad you brought that up because that's the inconsistencies that he mentioned and something that I know as a DC, he probably looked himself in the mirror and said, what are we doing? So, uniquely enough, I think that consistency is going to be something that we got to bring back. I think I agree with you on that if we see the rush defense become more consistent and stop that run, I think that's what helps reciprocate on the other side. And hopefully we see some good things from our offensive side of the ball as well. I appreciate the Q&A there with those things. Anything else you want to add? It can be either from the defensive or the offensive side of the ball since I've got you on tonight. Anything else you'd care to add about your expectations for the fall going into August 30th against Marshall?
So I did want to ask that because I think all eyes are on Glenn Schumann. Do we get any, I know he's not there, do we get any hands-on with Will Muschamp? Because I think when he was on the field, you could tell in that Texas game and then the Notre Dame game that the defense played well. I think we played enough to with just offense couldn't do anything. Do we get any, if you have him, any analyst work? Because originally they said, hey, he's not going to be on the team. Then Kirby says he's with them. I think he could be a key. Just getting 50% of what he normally does is you can just tell when he's around, even on the sidelines, the defense is a little better. What's your thoughts on Will Muschamp?
Oh, there's no doubt about that. Will Muschamp being a part and being some kind of integral part. I mean, him and Kirby go way back. It's like having your best friend out there on staff who also has equally the defensive repertoire knowledge that Coach Smart has. In fact, if anything, I would say that Kirby has probably learned a lot from Will. More than Will learning from Kirby. They've really bantered very well together, and I think they've mixed very well. But you're exactly right. If Coach Muschamp is any part helping T-Rob and Donte and those guys back there in the secondary, being that extra set of eyes for the defense as well to help Kirby out, it's the same thing what we've got this year in Stacy Searles when you got Lilly that was back during the Mark Rick years and Rosher, which I think is the offensive line guy that's helping Stacy. The more guys you have eyes on the football, the better you can coach, the better you have, because it's hard. I know as an offensive line coach, when you're trying to watch the point of attack where you know the ball's going and you don't get a chance to maybe see the back left side tackle, more eyes on the football allows you to see more people so that more people can get their ass chewed so that you're getting the execution you want and the chemistry you want. So you got 5 guys working together as a unit instead of 4 doing it right and 1 screwing it up, and you don't see it because you're trying to watch one spot and you miss it somewhere else. More eyes on the football. Anytime you got a Will Muschamp led area back there as an analyst watching the defensive secondary, helping T-Rob and Donte out and giving Coach Smart extra eyes to, schematics, what they're running into the coverage boundary or wide side of the field, it's just added incentive. So I agree with you on that. It's well put and something I think that will definitely help them this year. So, Trey, again, if somebody caught you there at the tail end here instead of at the beginning, I'll let you plug in there where you're from and what's going on with you. So, any of the listeners or subscribers out there, if you will, real quick, Trey, tell them about yourself a little bit before we let you go.
Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, check me out on Doghouse Podcast on YouTube. We're growing there. Got 620 subscribers. Also on Doghouse Podcast on Instagram and Doghouse Talk on Twitter. One other little thing, it's a pipe dream, but I wish it would happen, is I'd take John Gruden, analyst, anytime on the sidelines. He showed up the other day at practice. If they could give him any employment, I think that would be great. I know he's a busy guy, but hey, saw him on the sideline. I'm like, look at that guy. I'd take him in a heartbeat.
I'm not going to lie. He made my day. He followed me on Twitter about 3 or 4 months ago. And I couldn't have, the X's and O guru follows me on Twitter. So it just made my day. And to see him out there, I know he's obviously promoing and talking to Kirby. And he went in there and obviously had some conversations. I'm sure I can't imagine the conversations him and Coach Smart had in the meeting room after he got done with practice that day. But you're right. There was a little bit of excitement in me going, you know what? I know Coach Gruden gets fired up seeing good football, and I guarantee he saw some good practices out there that day. And I'm hoping maybe it got some juices flowing. Who knows? You never know. Trey, it was a pleasure being on the show with you tonight. Thank you for your time, and we'll see you soon, okay?
Hey, appreciate Coach Hayes, and go Dogs.
Yes, sir. Go Dogs. I wanted to say I had an excessive amount of questions during my little interview session there with Trey. I'd like to thank Trey for coming on the show and being a part of that for that little 20-minute sesh, just talking linebackers a little bit. And I wanted to bring back up this slide. Hunter, appreciate you checking with me on Facebook. Love you to death, guys. My Murray County days when I was over at North Murray High School, got the opportunity to coach a lot of great kids over there and see a lot of great football. Hunter was a part of our program and was an essential part of our program. Loved what he did for us, for the staff, and worked as a manager with a team. And you talking about someone who loves his program, you talking about fire, passion, and energy. Hunter definitely brought that too. And so, I want to just thank for all the questions that came through. I am definitely putting a pin in a lot of these right now because I got a lot of stuff back and I was trying to go back through them while I was looking at the interview session behind. I definitely want to try to entertain these. I love the interaction that's going on in the chat room right now. I'm checking on Facebook. I'm checking on YouTube as well. And then, of course, I've got my stream live on X too. Just so you know, I appreciate whoever scanned the QR code in the Discord. That is something also that I'm being a part of in my community. I actually have the opportunity to join a very nice Discord community that's going to be a part of what I'm going to be doing in my sessions when I'm sharing stuff on social media. I'm going to be doing some live sessions in there as well. They have welcomed me in, and we have just actually established this partnership. I don't even know if it's 24 hours old or not, but if you scan that QR code while I was doing the interview with Trey, that will take you to the Discord invite and put you into a community of nothing but just universal sports fans who love all the different genres of sports, along with a very nice section in there for Georgia Bulldog fans. And for the people who brought me in for this, I do appreciate you. And having the opportunity to share my content in there is going to be awesome, with definitely close to 2,000 people in that community, and they're going strong in there. So whoever scanned that, I do appreciate it. And opportunities will present themselves because those QR codes will be on the screen for you to scan at any time and have the opportunity to sign up. Appreciate you, Scott, being in here tonight. I know you're a faithful guy, been here with me since the beginning. I always love having you as part of the show as well. Thank you for checking in with me. When we get a chance to, Eric, I'll show you that. We can get the QR code to pop up on my ending screen. If you hang around a little bit, I'll put that back up there, give you a chance to be a part of that Discord group as well. So what I wanted to do is I brought back up the schematic that I had on the screen with Trey. And what I wanted to show you, these were just last year basic stats that you have from your linebacker core. Now, we know that we're going to have CJ and Raylen more than likely be the two staples at the mic and the money. I refer to them as the mic and the wheel, because when you're in basically a 6-man in the box, when we run a lot of nickel, which means your two outside linebackers, one's removed to place with a safety, the other outside linebacker typically walks up like an end because of the different sets they get offensively. You have two backers sitting basically at 20 techniques, which are they're over the top of guards, and they're off the ball linebackers. So therefore we refer to them not as a 2 technique like you would on the line of scrimmage, but a 20 technique, which is something that is off the ball. and they're covered up by those 4 eyes and that mint that we love to run when we can be in a true 3-4 look. Or a 3-4 that's modified or adjusted with an end walked up. But, you look at C.J. Allen with his 76 tackles last year with 1 interception. I definitely can see a comparison, because what a lot of people do, you'll notice I've got Roquan down at the bottom here. Roquan's basic year that we're comparing to C.J. Allen's 76 tackle year would be the year of 2016 with Roquan. So those of you who saw that is you look at his comparables. He played in 13 games. He had 95 tackles, 52 solos, 5 tackles for loss, and 2 forced fumbles. Now, C.J. Allen doesn't have as many havoc type plays as Roquan had, but you can see a 76 tackle year to a 95 tackle year in Roquan. A lot of people want to compare, because I'm going to tell you this, when you watch him on film, as I bring this up, because we're talking about C.J. and Raylen as the twos, the 1 and 2 spot at the Mike and the Money, which is the Mike and the Wheel. Chris Cole and Justin Williams are the next 2 more than likely in line at those spots. And I think we're going to see those guys rotate a lot this year, those 4, because I don't think you really fall off at all bringing those other 2 guys in. Terrell Foster adds a lot of depth there too. And then you'll notice on the far left-hand side, I have Zayden Walker and AJ Kruah, which both high-end 5-star, 4-star recruits coming in. AJ Kruah, as you know, was the commit flip from North Carolina. And, just looking at him on screen, you can just tell he's ready to just go out there and cause a lot of hell. And that's what you want from your linebacker crew. You want them pissed off and biting nails. You want to tell them to go bite the tree. They'll go bite it, and they'll bite the bark off and bring it back to you, man. That's what you want from your linebacker crew. So, I just wanted to let you know, for those of you who try to comp, Roquan Smith to C.J. Allen, just let C.J. Allen be C.J. Allen. Let him go out there and do what he's meant to do. He's grown up. If you want to call this his bag year, I could say that it possibly could be. But honestly, I would just rather him just go out there and do his job, and those stats will take care of themselves. When you look at him on film here, you can see him moving from the inside linebacker position. Just his lateral speed to and fro is just unbelievable. A lot of these clips right here against Texas, I believe. I think I have a couple against Clemson, but you can just see his discipline. His eye discipline is really good. He sits, he runs laterally. He arrives with bad intentions, and he's a heck of a tackler. As you can see here, taking on power gap scheme to come up and make the play. There's a lot of things we see out of him that just makes you being a leader, getting your guys lined up right, making sure they're in the right positions for position blitzes, things of that nature. But also, too, when you watch him on film, there are things that he could do to get better, and he would be the first one to tell you that. There will be no doubt about it, 100%. So what I want to show you here is I'm going to give you the opportunity to watch me as a coach break down C.J. Allen on a gap scheme play and show you, even though, the common fan watches it and sees, a good play made, I'm going to show you as a coach how you can break someone down and expect something just a little bit better. So here's C.J. Allen breakdown on a gap scheme against Texas. I hope you enjoy it. All right, what we have here is Ghost Power by Texas. I've taken on this linebacker breakdown that I'm going to be doing this week. And, of course, I'm going to start off with the man C.J. Allen. Raylen Wilson and C.J. Allen are 2 of the best linebackers in the nation due to experience. They've got the tenure. They've got the fire, passion, energy Coach Smart talks about. And I think it really puts perspective to having 2 guys inside that have to be disciplined and understand the game and not get caught up in all the eye candy that Sark wants to do with Texas. First off, there's 2 things that I want to talk to you about. I'm going to talk about the offensive side first. I'm going to talk about the defensive side second. First off, what Texas is running off of jet action, they're going to show a buck where he's going to open up and turn his back to the line of scrimmage. We got Wisner, I believe there, is taking a bucket step, and he's going to be coming down to get the football, and he fakes this and hands it here. Now, what they've got, because so many people cover up the tackle nowadays, is they run what's called, I call it ghost because of the G and H. So the guard is going to be the pull guy to kick out, and your H is going to be the wrap for the play side backer. So the guys that are left here that are supposed to be blocked from this are these 2 guys. Obviously, C.J. Allen is the one that's going to be folded to. Okay, so that means you've got these 4 right here that are going to be blocked by the rest of the guys. The center has a head up 0 right over the top of him. So he's going to have to seal. He's going to run the hip and drive him and gallop and work through him and climb to Raylen. Okay. This tackle, because he's covered up, he's got to take this on as a base. And really what he wants to try to do is turn him out if he can. Now, because he's the leverage guy, we always talk about setting the edge. This is just knowing what you've got in this situation for leverage purposes. So what Shamlis is going to do is typically there's two different ways you can take this on. There's actually three ways you can take this on. You can take it and kick it to where the running back goes up inside. That's called a box. If he takes it to the inside shoulder to make the running back bump, that's called a spill. But if you're spilling him, that means you should have leverage to force here as well, and we don't have that. So what you're going to notice is Shamlis actually takes on that kick out block to what we call a box. And what we mean is we're boxing it back inside to your linebacker help. So that's understanding leverage. I've got a lot of lines drawn, so I'm going to erase some stuff here so we can go back to it. Now, so just go back to it. You've got the tackle on the 4-eye. You've got the center and the guard working through the 0 to the backside backer. You've got the tackle taking this guy on and driving him out. Now, with these guys pulling, he should be kicking Shamlis out. The H-back should be climbing to your play side backer. You got the jet action. He's going to show the buck action, and we got this guy going this way. Now, the one thing about when you run power or counter Trey is the point of attack tackle. What you want to be able to do with that point of attack tackle is he can't be driven out of there. Okay. So what you'll notice that I don't like to see is whoever this is right here. And I can't really tell by his stature right here. I want to say it's Gabe Harris, possibly. I can't tell if it's McKell or Gabe, one of the two here, but this is a 5 technique tackle in this case scenario that's playing a true tackle. He is a B gap, C gap guy right here. And in this case, he's got to hold his ground and not be driven out. I used to always tell my tackles to see if you could drive your guy. If you've got the down block, it would really be more here. And when you got this down block, you want to drive that 0 all the way into the, drive the ass into the linebacker. That's the best block you can do because they can combo it, come off of it. And not only are you blocking this guy off the combo, but you've got this defensive tackle blown up all the way. Of course, our guys don't get blown up. They hold their ground. But what you're going to notice is that there are some leverage issues right here with this 4-eye because he does get turned. And when he gets turned in the gap, that allows an H for a free ride up to CJ. Okay. Now, what I'm going to let this do is go in motion for a second. And we're going to talk about what happens here at the point of attack. So you got the guard pulling. There's the box. See how he's taking the outside shoulder right here instead of the inside shoulder. See how he's getting turned. What we want to do, now this is a good tackle, guys. What you want in this right here is you want to punch and press him, and you want to be able to gain leverage and gain ground, because when you block him back, that's going to mess up the H's route to wherever he's got to go, because if he squeezes here, that means the H has got to go outside of that for the block because he's boxed this. It's stupid for him to try to go way outside of this. He's boxed this back inside. That's what we're talking about, is this box right here. All right. But because he's getting turned a little bit, this allows for leverage for him to get up inside. And, that's not what you want. That's not the angles you want. You want to create least amount of angles possible. So he's going to take him on, and I want him to blow him up into the gap to make him have to bump. And since he's boxed it off, he's going to have to follow up in that bump. And this is where a good linebacker reads what's called cloudy clear. If he fits inside and he can't go anywhere and that H fits outside, by God, you're right there off that butt, and you're blowing that up right there where 78's numbers are at. Okay. If he's fitting it outside and the H is able to wrap up inside, now you're blowing it up into the hole. We do cloudy clear fits every day. This would be something that I know Coach Shue probably does with these guys in their sleep, where you're working on inside and outside leverage points where you got to take your read steps and fit off of it. That's something you do every day. That's linebacker drills 101 for cloudy clear fits. Okay. So in this case scenario, what happens here is we get a little bit of a turn. See how he gets moved? That's not good. We don't want him moved right there. He's got to be fighting his ass off to be about right here instead of right here. Because when you got two big asses right here and not right here, that makes his ass not able to get up to him any better. Now, CJ does make this play, but I want to tell you, a lot of people who gave Chaz Shamlis a hard time, not only does this son of a buck block this on the outside and box it to make it go up inside, which is where you're supposed to go with it, he's got a more of a free release up to the linebacker because he's not doing his job here. Everything's comboed. He's fighting his ground. See how he's staying leveraged? He's flat to the line of scrimmage, by God, but he hadn't been moved. Okay. Now you see Raylen has made sure that that's not getting on the jet. Now he's working back over the top to fit this, because what should happen in the ideal world, he blows this up, he fits over the top of it, and if he blows his leverage up here, if they box it here, he blows it up on the outside shoulder here. The only cut he's got is inside, and that's where your fits to. Okay, CJ's got to be smart with this, because he knows if he hits this shoulder, golly bum, I've got too many lines drawn. My bad, guys. If he hits this shoulder right here, all right, and comes up and hits this shoulder right here, now he's got a chance to seal him. Now we're 88 out the gate because there is no force out here. That's the reason why he's boxing and not spilling it. All right. So he's got to be able to attack that outside shoulder to leverage to make that cut go there so Raylen can fit over the top of it. But this is what makes CJ so good. The one thing I would say is, CJ, you want to be able to attack this a little bit harder. All right. You want to keep your outside shoulder free. But I think that what I'm critiquing you on here is what I would love to see you is notice this a little bit quicker. So you're blowing him up about right there. See where you're catching this at? Okay. And like I said, guys, I am looking at kicking rocks here about this because we're talking about a matter of 2 yards. But when you blow him up here and 85 is sitting right here, now he's got to make a cut quicker. All right. If he fits over the top the way he should right here, that helps. But what happens here is CJ takes the block on pretty well, catches, and doesn't get off as quickly as you would like to see. And then comes back and makes the tackle. I really don't like the fact that Raylen's still playing with that backside tackle right there off of that double team up to him. He's got to work over the top of that. But I know Coach Shue's got a way for them to understand because obviously in the 3-4 defense, there's a difference in how I ran it with a 4-3 defense because he's slow playing him right here because of this jet action. You'll see Raylen kind of freezes for a second because he knows right here he's got to honor this because he's an inside out defender right here because he's got an outside in defender. I think a nickel I saw over here on the number 2 receiver. So as he gets the ball, now he can come over the top, but he's got to really work over the top as hard as he can. And if this guy's not being moved the way he is right there, I really want to find out who that is. I hadn't even looked at it. I'm trying to see the number here. Y'all probably can help me out too. Maybe that is Gabe Harris, I believe. Yep, that's Gabe Harris. So, that's something that Gabe's going to have to work on, and I'm sure he got taught in film right here. We don't want to get moved out of there. We don't want to get moved out by that tackle. All right. We want to be able to take that and we want to be able to be flat to the line of scrimmage. You may be being driven into the ground, but I'd much rather if you drive yourself into the ground, you're driving yourself into the ground right here with a fat body on the ground and making him have to dive over you or jump over you or go another route. When you get run out like you do right here, that's a free route for your tight end here to your linebacker. But CJ takes that on really well. I would love to see him take it on a little bit quicker up in the hole. I'd like to see him blow it up, but his leverage is good. He comes off and he makes the tackle. Now I got off on a tangent there because I saw a squirrel, but I want to tell you, those people who give Chambliss a hard time, guys, this is phenomenal. Not only does he has the responsibility of blowing this up and setting the edge. Not only does he box this, watch him get off of this block from the guard pull and actually get back into the tackle right here on the tailback. That is phenomenal work. And I'm sure I would have definitely pulled this out in practice and let them watch this over and over because that doesn't say just because you set the edge doesn't mean you can't come in and make the play. So you think about it. You got a box guy that gets off and actually helps make the tackle. He blows it up here instead of catching it here. He's making the tackle here. Raylen can't get caught up in this wash right here. He's got to get over the top and be ready to fit as well. So, even though it's a great play and people show this on film about CJ Allen, and I think still it's a good play. I mean, it's a minimal gain, obviously. I'm kicking rock here is trying to find things to talk about. But as a coach, that's different than what the fan sees. And they just see a good play by CJ Allen, making this tackle right here off this block and, doing a good job right here. But when you watch it, he could definitely take that on a little bit quicker in the hole, be able to blow that up and be able to, I always taught my linebackers, if you're going to have to engage someone, all right, engage them violently. That's what I call a punch and press. Instead of he kind of catches this right here, what I want him to be is the aggressor. He can be the aggressor and punch and press, keep his, outside leverage this guy and show his hat right here, his hat right here so that he makes the running back cut back inside so he can take and shuck and get off of that and make the play right here. But if you punch and press violently and you knock him back into the play, and you'll see him actually do that in another clip that I'm going to break down, you'll see that he'll have better success with that. But that's just linebacker play 101, something that he probably understands, probably got hopefully taught. I'm sure Coach Shue, the rest of those guys that are watching film, they're pretty excited about this. Realistically, who made the better play here was Chambliss. This guy's bad. All right. Raylen, you're not getting there quick enough. You've got to be able to help over the top as a backside linebacker if you're an off the ball linebacker in this play right here. And that's the thing about Sark. He's going to give you all this eye candy to look at like he does here. I mean, these guys are understanding. A lot of people don't get the linebacker play when it comes to this. These two guys right here do not care about this guy in motion. Okay. They've got leverage support out here to take care of it. I think that's Jonel Aguero, and he's got to sit to make sure he doesn't get it, because if he did get it, he would be your outside defender, outside leverage. He would be your inside leverage. So that's why you see him delay a little bit. Now, like I said, in high school, it's a little bit easier because I teach the guards. when they pull, if you get that pull action, you're fitting over the top of the double team that's coming to you. All right. If you get a down from the play side backer, you're fitting that down now. Like the minute you see the down, by God, you are running up in there, especially if you know you got leverage defender, it's going to box it. And in my defense with a 4-3, we boxed everything. We didn't spill it. But in a 3-4, they're going to spill a lot of their plays to the outside because they have that nickel support and also safety support that's coming downhill to be a leverage player. So again, I have drawn all over the screen to where you can't even hardly see the players. But again, this is a traditional 3-4 against Sark's offense. And you've got two guys that are basically reading this box right here, okay, with that double team up to him and him fitting off of this. And like I said, I just think it's something where over time, he's going to have time to get better at this, be able to read the play and put it up in there. And like I said, taking it on here instead of here makes this be even more of a minimal gain than it is. But still, getting off the block right there and making the tackle, good job by. I appreciate your patience with me. Yes, it was. I was looking at all the different things that was happening there with that, but I think you had, I wasn't sure who was at the zeros, probably either Stackhouse or Brinson was at the nose at that position, but point of attack's what I was looking at. Last thing I'm going to do is look at Chris Cole. We got a couple of things on film from him from last year. You can see what his tackles were last year. He was a specialty player that came in on third downs mostly, dropping in zone coverage, working on man-to-man. But I just wanted to show you a quick clip from the UMass game where he does a great job where in the previous time or the SEC championship game in 2023, Raylen takes the wrong route to this and the running back rails off of it and scores a touchdown. Where here, Chris does the right angle, getting to the football on the rail route and actually does a great job of making the tackle here and actually blowing his ass up. So real quickly, a little bit on Chris Cole, and then we'll close the show. I wanted to show you this play to obviously highlight Chris Cole. He's obviously someone that we're going to be counting on this year. Maybe not as much at inside linebacker because you got Raylen Wilson and C.J. Allen. But I would almost bet that him and Justin Williams are going to get a lot of reps this year from the inside linebacker position. But I think because of our depth at the outside linebacker position, playing the jack or the weak side 5, that Chris Cole's going to see that opposite of Gabe Harris a lot, similar to what Damon and Gabe did last year. Quintavious Johnson, who is also someone that I'm very high on, is going to fit that bill as well. So I wanted to go through just real quickly and show you these young bucks who I think are going to be heavy contributors this year as we go about our business. First off, up top, a lot of hype is on DeMello Jones. You got him right here at number 15 playing the number 1 wide receiver. You've got Ellis Robinson, who obviously all the hype with him as a 5-star. He's obviously having to learn to play Division I football at Georgia, and I think that learning curve is getting hopefully a lot shorter because we need to see him this year. He had the number 1 receiver because that guy was lined up here. He has now gone in motion, so he is filling over the top of that to take care of that. You got Kyron Jones on number 2, and you got Andre Evans, who should be on this number 3 guy right here. Justin Williams is going to be on a blitz, so you've got him as C-gap, him as B-gap. You've got Jordan Hall as your A-gap. Over here, you got Xavier Cloud as your A-gap, and you got Damon Wilson, I think, number 10 here, he's your B-gap player. And then, of course, Chris Cole is your C-gap player if it was run, but since it's pass, and he's obviously going to option off to the running back because we're in a cover 1 look right here. And when you've got cover 1, that means you've got one guy that's going to be free, and that's him. So with this situation, everybody's taken care of, everybody's covered up, and we're going to bring a 5-man pressure with nobody left in the backfield here. So I'm going to erase all this off and kind of put it into motion, and we can see the process. Now, what I'm going to notice here, Kyron Jones does a good job of staying on his guy. I noticed that DeMello puts no hands on right here because they're going to run mesh. You got mesh over the top. Chris Cole is fitting through the gap, and a lot of times, I don't know if you noticed this against Alabama last year in the SEC championship, all this right here is what got Raylen Wilson messed up, and he went underneath this, and the running back railed out of this, and he couldn't recover back to the touchdown thrown to the running back out of the backfield. This is a great attack angle when you're the linebacker to go over the top of all this mess right here to get to your running back on the rail route. What I don't like, Andre Evans right now is way too far outside. He should be downhill waiting for this cut off of this, because what they're trying to do is produce a little bit of mess right here by him running vertical with Kyron, and that creates traffic. Andre should be closer to this as the ball continues to go here. So you can see if he had time to throw, because Jordan Hall, for some odd reason, the center has come off of the blocking scheme and Jordan Hall is now free, this guy would come open right here. The only thing I really wish to see when you look at Ellis Robinson, as he's come over here and just settled on an option, as Ellis sort of drifts over the top, I would love to see him kind of close ground to him a little bit, because if he comes off of this and throws backside, I don't give a crap what a good athlete you are. It is hella hard to try to make a open tackle in space. Now, granted, that's what you come to the University of Georgia for, as a Division I athlete, as an elite athlete. You would think that you have the ability to do that. But the one thing that we have noticed about him and we have heard about him is he is not the best physical guy. He can cover you. He can stay in phase with hips. He's an excellent athlete when it comes to his cover skills. But his physicality is something that's been challenged and been questioned. So for him to be able to come up and make this tackle right here, I'm not sure. I really wish he wouldn't be so lazy as he comes over the top, just to make sure he's closer to it so that he can engage once the ball is thrown right here. Now, quarterback, because of Jordan Hall coming through free, is now going to throw the rail route out of the backfield. And what I love is that as a linebacker, when you're covering the rail, you want to fit inside out. So as he catches the football, he has no desire whatsoever to cut back inside, because you've leveraged that point off. So as he catches it, he's got to stay in the direction that he's going, and then you work inside out and decleat him right here and strike the match. So excuse me, I didn't get my eraser cut off right here. So we can play this out. You can see that boom right there, laying the boomstick right there that I like to see. I'm going to bring it back just a little bit and let you see that again. Bow. All right. Now we're going to watch this from the tight side here. Now from the tight side. Okay, so as you can see, the Chris Cole breakdown there, seeing him come up and do his job in man-to-man when he's got the running back out of the backfield for the rail, that's just the freak of nature that I think he really is. He's a long, rangy kid that's fast, and that's something that you love to see, because he can play man. He's definitely going to be lined up typically against a linebacker from the inside back position. He could also come on a blitz. If any of he drops in zone and he has to spy, he's going to be that perfect zone middle defender that the quarterback has to try to layer over a 6'3", 3.5 kid that, in space is just someone who's got a great athletic ability. It's going to get up and it's going to be really hard to layer those throws. I just wanted to let you know that when I look at what we have this year, Raylen Wilson is the perfect complement to CJ Allen. All of our linebackers are going to step up this year. This is one of the personnel groupings that I really feel I don't worry as much about. If I do think about it, the only thing that probably creates that inconsistency that I remember 225 girl asking the question about, what could be something that disrupts this feeling about us having a good and successful year, is just what Coach Schumann talked about the other day in his presser. It's consistency. And sometimes consistency gets broken when you have injuries. Now, a lot of people say it's next man up mentality, but I'm sorry, when you have a consistent measure and guys working together with great chemistry and somebody goes down, you've got to have the next man up mentality, but that doesn't mean necessarily that continuity and consistency is still going to be there. So you have to kind of go with the growing pains of that, just like what Raylen and CJ were thrown into when we were dealing with the inside linebacker issues in the 2023 year. They had to grow up quick and be thrown into the fire that year. And now, because of that experience has paid off. I call it the Matrix effect, honestly. When Neo learned finally that he was the one and everything was coming at him fast, and he all of a sudden realized when he was the one that not only could he slow it down, he could actually make it stop. It's the same thing in a kid's thought process. If you slow down their thinking, and I've always said you can't be fast and confused at the same time. So if you decide that you have grown up and got some experience under your belt, it's going to put you in a good mindset when you get out there, because all of a sudden it becomes like the Matrix. It's going to slow down, and all of a sudden your reads are going to be quicker. You're going to get to the ball quicker. You're not hesitating. There's not that sense of, I'm not sure, for that one bit of hesitation that causes the difference of a gap being, 3 or 4 yards wide to being just a half a yard wide. And that's a big difference when it comes to linebacker play from the inside. And I really think that this year is going to be a nice, refreshing feeling than what we saw in the inconsistencies last year on the defensive side of the ball. We're really tackling, I think, a lot better this year. There's emphasis on that, and we've got experienced guys in the right places to execute those things for Coach Shue, Coach Smart, and the rest of the defensive staff. Well, I'm roughly at an hour and 12 minutes, so I'm going to go to my hunker down session here. I want to talk a little bit about this guy right here. And guys, I want to tell you this, seeing Brian from on the Twitter side, he's one of my few Twitter chats today. So, Brian, I appreciate you, part of the Morris Hall tailgate. Looking forward to that this fall. Brian, love you to death. Appreciate you were one of the first ones to welcome me in there with Greg and Dwight. Of course, John bringing me in there too. I was really enjoying all those things that go along with that. Can't wait to gather between the hedges in a few weeks. You daggum right. I can't wait either. But, you know, looking at Coach Bobo answering questions, and I know a lot of people out there really just want to put this emphasis on him as being like, you know, he's just outdated now. He's not adapting to the times and those kind of things. I don't know if you guys realize or not, when Todd Monken was calling the offense, Coach Bobo was right there beside him in his ear. If you're not adapting in today's time as a coach, you're dying. And honestly, he can't do a lot of those things. And I know a lot of the conversations could really end up, they're just pissing contests, basically, because I could sit there all day long and defend Bobo. And as long as you're passionately trying to hate him for no reason, other than the fact that he can't catch the footballs for them, he can't help the fact that they don't execute to get a 3rd down and 2 play because we don't, you know, move the line of scrimmage a little bit like that. Well, you say, well, that falls on the OC's hands, or, you know, on his plate. But when you go out there and execute it every day in practice and you look good doing it, and you're going against a solid ass defense that's, I would say, is pretty comparably one of the better defenses we want to be in the nation, you know, you feel pretty good about having a good offensive practice that week, especially in inside drill or when you've gone through Skelly, to feel confident that you're going to execute it in the game. He can't go out there and do that for him. But there is a lot of things that he is calling in his offense that fits the same regime as what Todd Monken was doing. And, you know, my thing is, I really do feel that, guys, Coach Bobo's not dumb. He knows what it's like to be in the trenches. He was a quarterback for the Georgia Bulldogs in the mid-90s towards the late 90s under the Donning years, okay? He knows what it means to have that label on him as the quarterback of UGA, all right? He was an offensive coordinator with Rick, went off and tried to do his own thing as a head coach, came back, and now, because of in lieu of Coach Smart being here, has been brought back in. Guys, if Coach Smart wants him on staff and immediately hired him when Monken left, there's obviously things that he wants to have for Coach Bobo to do. Now, I'm going to say this. When you have a defensive-minded head coach, sometimes it can compartmentalize what you can do offensively because there's some kind of scheme that you want to do that week. And sometimes I feel like Coach Bobo probably was working from a smaller note card than what he would like to do offensively. But those are the things you talk about through the week, and you say, okay, I want to be able to execute X, Y, and Z, and we're going to go out and do that. And when things don't happen, or there's inconsistencies, or there's injuries, or there's drops, or there's all of a sudden a lack of a run game, and you're playing from behind sometimes, or the very slow first quarters and defenses keeping you in the game, and it's a 3-0 game towards the end of the half, it gets frustrating because we're spoiled. And we don't realize that as a coach, you have to stay consistently calloused, because if you don't, everybody in the world will drive you nuts. It's just the reason why I like when I'm watching a game on Saturday and I have people in group chats and different people talking, and the minute there's a bad play, oh, we're doomed for the rest of the year. Guys, it is a roller coaster ride from beginning to end, and as a coach, it's even more intense. There's not one person in this world right now that is more in tuned and focused about having the best year he possibly can offensively than that gentleman right there on the screen that's talking in his interviews. He knows it. He was transparent. He talked about the conservativeness, and he talked about the fact there was times where he might have been a little bit handcuffed. But, you know, that comes down to the fact of wanting to go out and execute your game plan. And unfortunately, it doesn't happen sometimes. That happens in a lot of ball games. Guys, we play in a very tough conference. We beat on each other all year long with very good players against one another. And all of a sudden, when you've got all those inconsistencies, the drop passes, a Carson Beck moral dilemma where he's dealing with, I know he's having a midlife crisis through the course of the year. We have the running back woes, the lineman woes, and all of a sudden it's just like, let's fire the people who are coaching them. I'm going to say this. Coach Bobo has the opportunity this year with the receiving core that he has, I think, to have an unprecedented year throwing the football. But it all comes down to establishing the run game, which he is heavy on. And he mentioned in his presser that you can't have, to me, consistency and balance if you don't have a good run game. So he's in Coach Searles. Coach Smart is in both of their ears, talking to them both. And I'm sure they had a nice come to Jesus meeting, because sometimes those meetings aren't nice, and they don't need to be. because it's a job and they're making millions of dollars to do their job. So by God, you want to go out and do the best you can do. I know Coach Bobo and his family very well. I know Coach Searles. He's from the same hometown as I'm from. I know his family very well too. And I know that these two guys are dedicated to their craft. And I know that they've got a lot of experience under their belt. And they want more for this program than you could ever imagine in your own life as a fan. So we need to get off the bandwagon of just trying to say fire them all because they're not doing their job. They're out there trying their best to do the best they can for that program because the expectations are so much more higher for them than you could ever imagine. And they expect perfection. If I know him as a coordinator, if I know Coach Searles, they expect perfection. And the way I look at it is if he goes out and he underachieves this year, Coach Searles goes out and underachieves this year, that's for a head coach to make a business decision as the CEO. He has to go in and say, listen, we are more than likely going to need to move in a different direction. And that's just business. I get that. But I don't really go against their coaching philosophies nor their mentality as a coach for their program. I think those kids respect the hell out of them, and I think they're doing everything possible that's right by them to try to make this program as successful as it is. And so all those Bobo haters that are watching this right now, and I know there's plenty of them out there, honestly, you can come at me all you want and talk about how much you hate this guy and he needs to be fired. He needed to be fired 3 or 4 years ago. I'm going to stand behind a coach because I know what it's like to be in the box. I know what it's like to be under the stress that you're under. And it's even 20,000 times worse being in a Division I ball game when you got 95,000 people in the stands hollering and screaming, and you're trying to call a Division I ball game that's on the air live and playing against the number 5 team in the country. You just don't realize how important those small little things that you want in consistency as a coordinator. And he's been here for a while. He knows the system. He's a UGA graduate. He loves this school just like our head coach does. And by God, if he wants him to be our OC, I trust what Coach Smart does. So again, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt this year. Same thing with Coach Searles, and we'll see what happens. But I definitely want to give them the chance to go out there and shine this year with the talent I see coming up, regardless of the unproven talent that we got going on right now. A lot of people in the chat as I've been talking here. I want to go ahead and pull up my last session for Hunker Down just to kind of end up since we're talking about linebackers today. I sit here and look at just some different comments that was made here. Yeah, Bobo was an analyst on Monken's staff, and I don't know how many of you realize, but a lot of things that Bobo calls, he's adapted from Monken's stuff and vice versa. In fact, Todd even mentioned that there was some calls that was made in the championship game and in other different situations that was actually, Coach Bobo's call in his ear saying, hey, let's do this. We got another one in here. Aaron, welcome in. It's good to see you in the chat. Back for another year. Can't wait for the command room. I can't wait for it either, my friend. I'm so looking forward to that. Susie, I saw you coming in here. Sound like you making excuses. Offensive coordinator, co-back coach, wide receiver coach, offensive line coach. You said everything but players not being developed. That's the problem. Okay, Susie, let me think about this for a second. So I go out at practice and I've got all these guys lined up and I'm going to go through a 5-minute sesh of 7-on-7 and we're going to run X, Y, and Z amount of plays. And they go out against the number 1 defense and they complete 75% of the passes. We run everything to progression. We have a couple of screw ups. We coach it up and everything's good. So when we get into the game and we've got to execute a 3rd and 2 on the short side of the field and we make a check with me at the line of scrimmage and all of a sudden they've changed the lineup. So we have to go back and check back and we're going to go back to the wide side of the field. And one player for some odd reason doesn't get it. And all of a sudden we do some type of RPO type game or it's just a quick throw off the hot read. And the one receiver that needs to have the opportunity there doesn't make the play. Well, all of a sudden, you sit there and say, well, that's Coach Bobo's fault. Hell no, it's not. He executed it all week long and they did it right. You have a kid that screws that up. We're dealing with 18 to 22-year-old kids. So I'm not going to sit there and listen to the excuse of a kid causing me to have that issue. That's where I jump on his ass and at halftime or whenever I can get a hold of him and I'm going to chew him down one side or the other. And I'm going to say, you did it all week at practice. Why can't you do it now? And that's where you yank somebody and you change their ego and you put somebody else in to try to do the job for you. That's coaching. That's not sitting there making excuses for anybody. I just said, if you hear me right, that if the opportunity presents itself and they don't achieve with the guys that they've got this year, both Coach Searles and Coach Bobo, I am completely for Coach Smart. If he makes an executive decision, you know what? I've got to be the CEO of this business and say, we've got to move in another direction with you. I honestly would probably agree with that after this year if we don't achieve what we should and we underachieve like we saw last year. But you can't do anything against when you have injuries. You can't do anything when you're dealing with the inconsistencies that we had last year because unfortunately there was not very good chemistry in the locker room. Carson Beck was causing a disconnect in the offense. And that carried over on the defensive side of the ball. And unfortunately, the culture of the program changed a little bit last year. And that's something on why Coach Smart has come back and he has tried to bring everything back together to get back to that essence of culture and building character in kids that want to go out there and do what's right by the team with little individualism as possible. Okay. That's what I'm saying in that regard. So, I see your comment there, and that kind of comment are the ones that just really, not saying irritate, because you have your right to to feel the way you do, Susie, about that. But when it comes down to it, I am going to be logical about it and see what he does this year, what Coach Searles does this year with that group, with a revamped Micah Morris, Ernest Green, Monroe Freeling, a good Drew Bobo that I think is going to do an excellent job. He's got one of them blue skull caps on, so obviously he's being a hell of a leader right now in fall camp, and a very proven Daniel Calhoun kid that I'm very excited about as well. Some other things was going to throw out there. See, Scott, I've got you in there as well. Bobo needs to talk more aggressively. I think he does too, but that's just his demeanor and the way he carries himself. He reminds me so much of his dad. I actually was an athletic trainer for his sister when she was a basketball player at Shorter. Todd said some key things that appeased the fans. I think he did too. He probably did meet some demands of that as well. But I mean, honestly, will you not want to throw your coach under the bus, especially if he's helping you in the process of, making your offense, try to make your offense more successful? To me, when you're looking at it, you also say execution is greater than scheme by far last year. That's what I want to see. I think that's the reason why we're going to see a difference in the consistency of catch balls this year. We're not going to see the drops like we had last year because we've just got a different dynamic on the offensive side of the ball. Scott, it looks like I got you on a tangent too here, but Coach, I need to see Bobo chew some ass, give that man a Diet Coke and some Marlboro Reds. Some people, there's the difference when you look at a coaching perspective. There's some coaches that just don't do that. They coach by just the way that they coach versus having to chew ass. I didn't really get my voice up ever. If I did, something was wrong. But when I did, people listened because I wasn't one of those that was going to holler all the time, so that eventually when I did want something to get across, it fell on deaf ear, because a coach that hollers all the time, it does fall on deaf ear. All right. So that's the way that I always coached. That was my mentality. And by God, when I got my voice up, they knew something was up because they knew that, I didn't play that, and I didn't. I was OG, get off my lawn, by God, get your ass in gear and let's go. But anyhow, I have had a chance to look at some different things on Twitter, and I had to pull up this Bebo golden hat tweet. He's talking about Schumann. When Schumann was interested in the North Carolina job before Bill Belichick took it, this comment was made. It said, "Bro ain't had an elite linebacker since Roquan. Don't look now, but that's almost a decade ago." He obviously doesn't realize that Nakobe Dean was also a Buckus Award winner, who was a high-level kid coming in from Mississippi, a 5-star kid, not to mention a Jalen Walker linebacker as well that was the Buckus Award winner, that played the outside linebacker and inside linebacker position his last year there. And you think about it, Nakobe was a shorter, stout inside linebacker. He didn't fit the stature of what we see in Chris Cole and even the kids that are committed this year, Nick Abrams and Shadarius Tootle. They're long rangier kids. He had to play. He was an undersized inside linebacker. But you know what made up for it? He waited his turn. He did his job. He came in with the competition they had there, and he won a damn starting position because he was that good. He was intelligent. He was focused. He did everything that was asked of him. There's no doubt about it that I believe in my whole heart he would have had a blue hat on his head if he was out at fall practice right now, because that's the way he did, is led by example. And he put himself into position to be one of the best linebackers that we've had come through Georgia through the 2021 season when they won the national championship. You saw that leadership when he crawled Shannon Tyndall's ass that night in the championship game. That was huge. That just goes to show you where he goes. But you know what? He didn't run from competition. He didn't say, well, I'm just going to go to another school like Texas, AKA Tyler Atkinson, because I know my starting opportunity is going to be there. I can run my brand, and there's not really the competition that I want there, because he said it out loud. There's too much competition at Georgia. I probably wouldn't see the field in my junior year. Well, that tells me right now you're not willing to go to work, young man. That's what I feel. So how about you come to Georgia and work yourself up? Because if you're good enough and the 5-star talent that you should be, then by God, you should be able to come to Georgia and work your way up just like Nakobe Dean did. All right. So, he sits there and wants to talk about a Buckus Award winner. We've got some. And also, they played inside linebacker after Roquan. So, toodles to you there, buddy, on that comment, because that held no water whatsoever. That was about as useless as a warm pitcher of spit. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate your time with me tonight as we went over the linebacker core. I can't thank all of you enough for being in the chat with me tonight. I do appreciate the fact that if you would like this, subscribe. If you haven't had a chance to, I'd like for you to put any comments down in the comment section. Again, just a reminder, you get the opportunity. I'm going to go back up real quick. Georgia Sports Autographs has given me the opportunity to allow you to basically register in 2 different ways. If you see the QR code at the top left-hand side, that takes you to my website where you can subscribe with your email to get 1 free entry for basically certified, authentic, signed merch. Okay, jerseys, mini helmets, and helmets. I'll be doing a giveaway for 3 items on August the 29th. Tonight, we've had my goal for Super Chats was met. $5 Super Chats gives you the opportunity for actually 3 more drawings. So you can have 3 drawings from the Super Chat with 1 drawing from the email subscription. So if you give me a Super Chat tonight and subscribe to my email, to my website, you will get 4 chances for a drawing on 3 different items on August the 29th. Guys, the platform is growing. There's wonderful opportunities out there for us. I do appreciate the opportunity for you to come in and discuss things with me online. And like I said, I love to interact with my viewers and the people who come in and who have made my show what it is. I wouldn't be where I'm at today if it wasn't for you out there being with me. It's very important that I have that opportunity with you tonight. I can't thank for you being patient. I've been on for almost an hour and a half tonight, and just really appreciate the opportunity to be with you. So if you get the chance, make sure you like, subscribe, hit that thumbs up button. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you, to be able to share with you some insight on Georgia football. Looking forward to the fall, looking forward to August 30th against Marshall. And again, you've reached Chris Hayes at Coach Hayes Hudl. I hope you have a blessed night. Take care and go Dogs.